Ooh, what's up YouTube, ODST General back again with another Operation Trebuchet news update. And this week, guys, we have a ton of awesome stuff to show off to you guys. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into it. Starting off, we have, of course, weapons platforms, which is the BR-45 battle rifle. Is that redundant? I suppose it's been redundant. Anyways, BR-45 is based off of an ODST story, Downfall. This version of the battle rifle is possibly going to be full auto, same magazine size and caliber as the current battle rifle. Potentially the grip will be replaceable with a bipod. Now, this is all up in the air. This is, once again, a fan-in battle rifle. There is no backstory to it. The exact functionality of it's unknown at this point since an ODST story is still in development, so how it will work there is going to be potentially far different once that's developed, if and when it's finished. So obviously still a lot of work in progress things and kind of guesswork with it at this point, but in game it looks fantastic. It turned out really well. But not much else to say about it at this point. It is still, I think it's just still a static weapon at this point, but once we do see it finish, I think it'll be a nice little addition to the armory. Speaking of armories, that brings us on to our next thing here with a perfect segue, if I do say so myself. That brings us to the UNSC weapons lockers that have been in development for a while. It's been a while since we've talked about these bad boys, but the shutters on them are now working, as you guys can see. So when the shutter is closed, you cannot pull weapons from it, but when the shutter opens, you pull your weapons out. It is good to go. The exact loadouts and stuff of these armory crates are still work in progress, so don't read into too much what you're seeing as far as the weapons go, but very cool looking. You can actually see when the weapon's pulled, it's physically pulled out of the inventory, stuff like that, so definitely digging that. Aside from that, that then brings us into vehicles with our first real big announcement this week. So this first announcement is the Sabre, which I know a bunch of people have been asking for a while here. This Sabre is being worked on by Oshin, who of course worked on the Mark 6 armor. Still very early work in progress. Once again, exact details of how this thing will perform and work is unknown, although it sounds like it will be a fixed-wing aircraft for the UNSC, which is obviously a role that's been lacking, even to some people's point when the Longsword was in. It really wasn't much of a fixed-wing aircraft, so this will be a much more nimble fighter-like craft for the UNSC. Potentially VTOL, potentially not. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work as far as like taking off and stuff. That's still being discussed. Not much else to say about it at this point since weapon loadouts and everything else is still obviously work in progress, although you can see a potential missile or rocket model for that on there. Shifting on over, we then also had Hollywood teasing a wheel he was working on. When he first posted it, I was not able to identify the wheel. I went back tonight and I was looking through wheels in Halo vehicles, as obviously there's several different wheeled vehicles in Halo. I couldn't find any matches, and I was thinking maybe it was a Warhog wheel, but the wheel well seemed a little too big for that, so going back and looking through, the only other vehicle that I could find with the same wheel well design as the Warthog is the Cobra, and the tread on the Cobra's wheel matches pretty much exactly this wheel that Hollywood's teased. So it looks like the Cobra is also probably work in progress, alongside, of course, the Kodiak and the Rhino. So cool stuff there. I think that means Hollywood's probably got like 15 projects he's working on right now. So he's a busy guy. So it's probably still a long ways off, though, if he's only teasing the wheel for it. But who knows? He could just be getting ready to tease the whole thing here before too long. On the note of Hollywood, that shifts on over to the buildings here, and we've got the Hangar Bay from outside Sword Base. So this is of course from Halo Reach. We've talked about this previously. This is a longsword storage hangar of some kind. This is supposed to be a modular building. So as you can see, as we go through the pictures, we see a 3-door version and 2-door versions here. The doors will slide into the ground once you go to open them. It will have interiors with catwalks and all sorts of stuff like that, so you'll get to see that as it's being developed here, as some of these screenshots come through with the new longsword model and the short sword model being worked on those inside the hangar as well. Awesome stuff there, but not a whole lot more to say on it outside of that. That brings us to Go After and his work on the Orbital Elevator. He has mentioned here in this comments, he's under a different username, but he's saying there's plans to make 7 versions of the Orbital Elevator. A Corbola Academy version, Harvest version, the Centennial version, which is his current work in progress, the Halo 2 version, the Halo 5 version, and a Halo Reach variant. So lots of different orbital elevators in our future. I don't know if they're all going to be equally sized or roughly the same size, but the one that's in is obviously massive right now. It's so awesome looking, though. The plan is obviously for this to have collision despite its massive size and everything. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. Obviously, as has been talked about in the past with other assets, Arma does kind of struggle with larger assets. So I don't really know how this is going to work, if it'll have to be placed into separate pieces when this actually goes in and gets like collision and everything properly implemented. But you can see, I mean, the thing's huge. It's like basically the elevator itself is like going to take up like the entire space of the island that like Madrigal's main city has there. That's insane. But yeah, lots of different shots of it, the different stabilizer rings. You got, like, I guess, exterior stabilizers and interior stabilizers, maybe? I'm not exactly sure what the different parts are. And, like, the interior is the elevator itself, presumably. But, very, very neat stuff. Go After It's also talked about working on some other buildings, such as the Vibrant Telecom building, but I don't have any screenshots or anything to show off for any of that, since it's all very early work in progress. However, what I do have to show off, switching back to Hollywood once again, because this guy's insane, he has the Oni building from something. I'm not exactly sure which game this particular Oni building was pulled from right offhand. Pretty neat looking building. It's hard to get a good sense of scale for this thing, as we don't have any Arma men or anything around that to get a proper scale of it. Assuming that on the right side of the picture there is a statue or some sort of memorial that's in front of the building, so that's probably a pretty sizable piece, I would imagine, and that maybe those pillars near that point are about the size of a person, or probably about twice as tall, I would guess. So this is probably a pretty sizable building, I would think. Potentially even a person's the size of each of those levels. You know, that if each of those levels could be like up to 10 feet. That would make a lot of sense. So this could be a very, very big building. But like I said, hard to get a good sense of scale on that, so not much else to say on it. So let's go ahead. Let's move on over to First Contact. As far as First Contact goes, we have the fuel rod in development. I've shown this off before. Not much has changed since I really showed this off last time. Just continued work refining and changing the textures and stuff to try and get the perfect look for this thing before it goes in game. Now, it may appear to be in game. That is because I believe it was Vespade, Lux said, basically imported all the settings from Tanoa with the lighting and the background stuff to try and perfectly reflect what these things in Substance Painter will actually look like once they're placed into Arma. So what you guys are seeing on screen, probably a very accurate representation of what we'll actually get once this thing's being finished being developed. With that being said, not much else to cover with regards to this fuel rod cannon. That's just us on over to some other texture work that Lux was showing off, which is for things like the Tyrant gun, as well as some undeveloped stuff that may or may not actually get made. So things like potentially, bubble shields or Covenant, other Covenant buildings or vehicles, which could, be on the board, or maybe just something that he's hoping they'll make. I really don't know the exact details, but pretty interesting stuff to be sure. Yeah, and then we've got on the community content side, Milton showing off his Guilty Spark model. I don't know if this is really any different or changed at all from the last time we had seen this thing, because we've obviously shown it off previously. I missed the context in which he was sharing this. I just needed to grab the screenshot real quick, so I don't know if he's still actively working on this. Now, it was my understanding, based off some other conversations going on, that Donnie may have worked on a Guilty Spark model, which is possibly getting donated to the dev team alongside the Forerunner structures. Exactly how that would be implemented, I don't know. If that would be like a drone or a static prop, or what they would do with that, but kind of an interesting idea or a thing to see that potentially happen. Outside of that, that is all of the news I can share with you guys this week. I was showing off some really awesome stuff that, man, guys, I really want to talk about. but I cannot show you guys this stuff. So just know that there is some very big stuff on the horizon here, very ambitious projects that may not see the light of day here ever. But if they do, it's going to be super hype. So with that being said, guys, this is everything, like I said, I can share this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Of course, let me know what you thought of the stuff that we shared today. What you guys want to see in the future of the mod and all that stuff. So let me guys know that in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.